Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Plus3 Futures and Commodities Show. We're recording here on Saturday the 20th, Saturday afternoon. My name is Ben Maldonado, and as always, I'm here with Barrie Hederachi. How you doing, Barrie?
I'm doing well. Thanks.
Yeah, things are coming into focus, as we know. Lots to cover on the show today. We're inside the major cycle window, so a lot of markets are busy. Barrie will cover ES, gold, bonds, crude oil, the dollar, and the euro. And on the commodity side, I'm going to have us take a look at corn and soybeans, silver and copper, nat gas. The Widowmaker is back on the show. Sugar, cotton, and coffee. So a lot to get through. The chart review was interesting this week, which I'll speak to when we get there. But let's start off as we always do with Bitcoin. How you like that line, Barrie?
Perfect, as usual.
Yeah, nice, huh?
And how about that trend line? Both.
Yeah.
Perfect. Got squeezed right into it and broke out to the. Now, if you didn't have that square line, you wouldn't think there's a possibility because it looks so bullish, right? It kept making higher lows and higher highs, but you wouldn't see the squeeze without the square.
Without that frame, you really would have been wrong-footed in this one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we kept saying, look, it's having trouble, and then boom, gives it up.
Yeah, I'm buying it.
So, I mean, the story hasn't changed. It was all a matter of, okay, where's this counter trend and this push up going to go to? As you can see, it was pretty much sideways. It was fairly weak.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're rolling over. Timing was, if you look at the 141, it was off by a couple days, but not bad. Looking high to high here from the March high. And our target box remains the same. The target area we're looking at is, 9,000 to 12,000. And this bar is, as you can see, it's kind of the biggest bar since July. Everything else has been pretty tight. So this looks to have rolled over. I don't see much hope in terms of bullishness, but we'll have to see how it plays out and how quickly or how haltingly it gets down to that next level, which is the half square. And that's, call it just under 15,700, right in that area. All the levels, incidentally, are on a Google Doc spreadsheet, which we will post the link to when we post the link to the video this week. They have the levels that we're all going to talk about, and you'll see them. So, I mean, unless you got anything else to add with Bitcoin, it sure looks like it's a better sell here.
Yeah, well, we do have that other trend line below, so it might be just a quick shakeout. And at the same time, we have that big target box around 10,000. We'll see if this is the time.
Yeah, it could be that we're moving in, and we know we're in a big cycle. We've talked about it on Twitter. We've talked about it on these shows. We're in this big cycle window, and this move to the downside while we're in that window, points to right now that we made a high here, and we're going to see weakness going into the fall. But we'll see. We'll let price dictate.
Yep.
Let me throw it over to you so you can go over the big five, and let's see what you're seeing this week.
All right. Are we good? Can you see it?
Yeah.
All right.
Couldn't quite make it up to the 90.
No, not quite to the 90, but we will later.
Yeah, right. We're not certain it's done yet either.
Yeah. So last week we left off with three levels. We were looking for a pullback to hold, depending on the level of strength in the market, to hold at one of these levels on any kind of a counter trend. The market, was stuck in a range bound, and we posted some of those ranges on Twitter during the week. But anyway, by Friday we just got to the highest level, which was 42.25, and that level is okay. So for next week, I mean, the game plan is pretty much the same, because if you look at this, we had a little bit of a triangle forming inside day and then down, which is usually a let's just say it's a bearish pattern. So there could be some follow through. Okay, in the meantime, I want to change a couple of these levels And just because of the way we're moving, I think it's probably worthwhile to adjust them. I'm going to take that 141.40 and make that 41.25 because we have a lot of support that comes in around 41.25, let's say 41.20 to 25. There are some good levels. And this 41.90 is still good. I might adjust it down a little bit just to give it some breathing room. And we should put it on the quarter line of the square. And the 42.25, boy, well, we'll just leave it there, see what happens. So the key, then that leaves us with two really key levels, 41.87 and 41.25. Ideally, we want to finish around 45.25, and of course, it's never ideal, so it's probably going to go slip a little lower, so maybe 4100. So it's in that zone is where we're looking for some kind of a correction to go. And now that's at the the deepest level of a correction. If we correct more than that, then I think we have a whole new downleg starting that could last much more than a week. So let's just keep that in mind. I don't think we're ready for that yet, so we should hold in here somewhere. And between 41.87 and 41.25, you can see how we got stuck in here, about the same range, in here, same range, right? So there is something in that level, like you can see here, same kind of idea. You can get stuck in there. So it's possible that we do that and consolidate sort of sideways, but that's sort of the two key levels and the range we're looking at, 41.87, 41.25. And if we do that, if we were a little bit later, we could have maybe hit the 90, tap the 90, which was that 43.70. And I think we'll eventually probably get there after, if the corrections, hold up well. And the reason I'm still bullish on this and not calling this some kind of a high is, well, first of all, we didn't quite get to the 90. Second of all, there are some time cycles that are starting to set up in the future towards the end of the month, where we get 72 low to low, we're getting a high to high of a 90.
What are those dates, by the way?
Well, they like, well, right about September 1st.
Yep.
Give or take a couple days, so that that gives you a little bit of a bracket. The key thing there is not to somehow nail that, but it tells me we still, we might still have upside pressure going into that. So,
right.
So after this correction, we could expect it to maybe go a little higher and retest
another push.
Yeah, and at least to do some kind of a false break or.
Yeah, something I have in my notes. I said, watch the counter trend off of this pullback to see if we make a lower high or we can make another higher high. That's going to be key.
The next impulse up. Yeah.
Yeah. So if we get a reversal, see what happens.
So I think we have a little bit of time. So that means we're going to probably have a good correction, get everybody on board, get everybody bullied up. And those who missed it and wants to get back in. So give everybody a chance before we go for the final sort of a finish up the cycle, at least this cycle. That's what it looks like to me. Anything you want to add? Or
just that I'm looking for the daily reversal and then to see where the next high comes in. Do we make a lower high? Do we make a higher high? Can we, clear that other high? Yeah. What happens?
Yeah.
Because time's running out.
Right. Well, we'll see. Let's go on to the weekly chart. So last week we talked about the half square. We talked about how, if that's really where the support needs to be. And that 41.25 area is right there. And this week, we ran up, came back down. We closed pretty much on the half square. So this is a little bit like bonds a couple of weeks ago. We said, hey, if we can hold above, we can expect, a firmer footing and get some traction and move higher. But if we lose at a half, we're probably going to go lower, and
yes.
And finish up the correction. So I think it's possible we do that. Looks like we started to do that. And well, we'll stay with that scenario. And and watch it next week. So we know the levels, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's also possible, we hold 42.25 and start jamming to the other side. That's possible. So I would watch all three levels from last week. Just to, when I say watch the level, it's really about seeing how the shorter time frame set up. I mean, depending on your trading time frames and what kind of trader you are. If you're a daily trader, well, then you can really look for some kind of a reversal off of these levels or close above the levels. If it's intraday, it's easy to like a 4-hour hourly, after we bump into a level and you get a buy signal on an hourly or a 4-hour. So that's what we're looking for during the week. If you're trading short term, of course.
Yeah, if we get a lower high and then a reversal on a 4-hour, be careful. That could be trouble.
Right. You mean in the coming week?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, we had a lower high on the 4-hour, last week, and that kicked us in. Yeah. The next rally, if we can't really recover, we have to. If we're going to run up, we have to clear this 42.70.
Yep.
Right away. And that's right about there. If we can't clear that Monday, Tuesday, then we're definitely going to go check these numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I think there's another run up, so we'll play it like that. See what happens. Yeah. Let's move on to bonds. Bonds are fairly simple. So bonds, we left off last week, really only looking at one number. That was the 140 level.
Right.
And as you can see, we were bouncing around that all week, and Friday we broke through it. So I'm expecting it to go lower. And the only number I would watch just to sort of see if it's, moving the correct way would be 137 area. And you can just drop it on your charts. And if we hold above that, it's possible we consolidate here and maybe do something else. But if we take 137 out, I think we're going for new lows. So that's kind of how I'm looking at that. But for now, it's weak under 140. There's no question about that. And it didn't quite get to the 72, but it definitely got to the 60, which is really 1/3 of the 90, right?
Mm-hmm.
We got there pretty well. That was a lower boundary of the box. And so the other third is pretty much where we are. And, if we can't sort of hold the ground here, then we're probably going to go full square and test the lows. So bonds are weak. Let's look at the weekly bonds. We left off last week, talking about basis weekly, 140, 141. And we were watching to see if the weekly can hold above or below. And you can see last week, we really couldn't. We were struggling and just gave it up. We're back much lower. Now we are 3 weeks down on the weekly, by the way. So it's possible we see some kind of a consolidation. Like I said, 137 is a level to watch to see if we can go there and maybe have a counter trend week next week. Otherwise, if we take 137 out, I think we're probably going to go, check the lows, or we're starting a new leg here.
Mm-hmm.
Fairly straightforward.
Yeah, for me on the daily, my half square is at 139. So that was the key level, which is right around your 140.
Mm-hmm.
Below that, we're in trouble. Above that, they got a shot at another rally.
Yeah, so this is sort of the zone here
Mm-hmm.
we're looking at. It's a big zone, but that's where we can sort of turn the market, right? So we want to watch that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's move on to crude. We talked about last week how we got stuck under the square 72, went back for a retest, failed.
Mm-hmm.
And basically we were weak on it. And I said, if we can't really clear 91, we're probably going to go and test, this 73, 75 area.
Mm-hmm.
Not quite there yet, but it seems like we tested 91 a couple of days from below. It really couldn't make any headway, as you can see, let alone 97 or halfway through the square, right? Like 95. So So it looks
Right.
like it's weak and it might be a slow grind. And timing wise, we September 8th, 9th lines up with a couple of cycles from the highs.
Mm-hmm.
So that's possible. And like I said, long as we're inside that square, boy, it's the pressure is to the downside. There's no question. And it could end up as a washout before it starts going back up again. Anything you want to add?
Just that we're 90 down from those March highs. So I'm interested to see if that holds or not.
Yeah, that's true. And let's see about that.
It's not out of the woods by any means, but I'm interested to see if it can hold.
Yeah, I was looking at that earlier. Yeah. So right here, right?
Mm-hmm.
We'll check that. If it holds, great.
It's to be determined yet.
Yes. For now, I'm just going to use 91 for now.
Mm-hmm.
As long as we're below that's weak. 83 is a potential target. That would be a little bit of a false break or a little bit overrun on the 90. 83 would come in right about there,
Mm-hmm.
90 would come in, and if we take that out, then of course 73.
Mm-hmm.
It seems reasonable. And this bottom channel line looks okay too. So if we get in there about 83, that might be something.
Just the washout that's needed,
Yeah, it needs a washout at this point, and looks like we're marching towards that perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
Can't really hold the level. So, all right. Next, we move on to crude weekly chart. Same situation. When we were up here, I drew in the box. If we were strong, we would hold the square, this 90 up from the low, and move higher. We couldn't do that. We tried, and about a month ago, and then failed. And it's just looking weak. And of course, we have this old high. Maybe found some support, bounced off of it, but it needs a little more than that. So for now, the weekly is straight down. Momentum, everything straight down. And long as it's built under the 90, I would say there's more downside. Higher probability of downside than upside at this point.
Mm-hmm. Definitely downside pressure.
Yeah, especially looking at this. Yeah, it's there. Moving on to gold, we looked at one number really. It's 1814 was the level we were looking at, and the half square of 72 was where it went to a couple of weeks ago. And last week we left it off saying if we can't take 1814, then it's probably going to consolidate, maybe go back and check the gap, or even come back down to 1730. Looks like we're doing that. So, I would like to see a flush in this, take out the 1676 and be done with this and get rolling. But it looks like it's 1730 might not be too far out, and that would also close the gap.
Interesting too, if you look at your the last two bars, we closed on the lows.
Yeah.
So there was some real pressure at the end of the week, which, the inverse I've been talking about in some of the commodities, where if you close on the high, you see some follow through. So I think you're right. I think we could probably get some follow through on the downside here.
Yeah, it was looking pretty pathetic.
But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, for now. But 1730, 1814, big band, but is weak until we find some support, and it looks like this is the area for now.
I mean, we either got to make a higher low or we got to go down and wash out those lows, one of the two.
Yeah, higher low ideal area would be here, because that would, would get to the number and also maybe close the gap. And that would be a hell of a 1-2.
Right. Okay, exactly.
Looking at the weekly gold, same story. We're just messing around here along the big support area. We can see big consolidation here. Tap, tap, tap. Little bounce. Not much to say other than we have to let it finish this correction, and long as we're above the 1670 area, long term it's on a bullish footing. I mean, definitely a bullish footing if you look at it like that. So, but this puts people to sleep,
Right.
Including
right before the big move.
Yeah. So you got to watch that. You have to know your levels, and that's kind of where we are. So this is just a reminder to say you got to keep an eye on this, because it's been consolidating for a while, and it could run soon. And moving on to the dollar,
And had a good week, didn't it?
Yes, it was a good week. And last week we talked about it holding and maybe running up to test the full square on 107. And yeah, we talked about the support here, right? Because the triangle it broke in.
Mm-hmm.
And well, we definitely went to test the 107 and got above it.
Pushed right through.
So it looks like, this 110, 111 looks reasonable if we can manage that. So obviously for now, we're looking at the 107 to hold on any kind of a correction, any kind of a pullback. And so we'll see. This was a very sneaky kind of a move, right? We got stuck under, looked a little weak, went down, did a false break right there.
And then took off.
Yeah, this is a fast break. So a fast move coming out of that. And so it looks like it's the power behind it.
Mhm.
Enough to go up and take that out. And possibly this 110, 111 area looks good. We can manage that. We'll see.
And that certainly has ramifications for risk and commodities too. If we see a strong dollar, that's headwinds for both of them.
It lines up in a certain way, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Looking at the weekly dollar, well, boy, this looks like a lower high would be just about perfect.
Yeah, if it can do it, right?
Yeah, and a higher high would be fine as a false break. So
Mhm.
I mean, look here, what happened, right? So you can see high and the false break. See that there, right?
Yep. And then a false break at the low too after that.
Yeah. And here, look at this.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're looking at so far it looks very strong. You don't want to get in the way of this kind of a move. So we're watching. You can trade the long side for now. I think it's fairly safe. 107.25 basis daily would be sort of the limit you want to keep an eye on as far as pullbacks go. And long as is above that, I would consider the market to be in a strong position. And this stuff put in a kind of a nice floor for this time around, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's possible we come and tap that. So next time we come through here would be the thing,
Right,
to watch. But it seems like we're gonna go and take this out for now. Let's take the euro. Just no traction, man.
Mm-mm. Can't get up.
Week before, well, a couple of weeks ago, we looked at this run up into either the ABCD up here or the halfway, or this resistance area up here, and it got into the resistance, turned back down, and here the key thing was it getting below the half square,
Mm-hmm.
and just accelerated. Now we're probably going to go ahead and make new lows. Looks like,
Agreed.
especially if dollar looks like it could possibly make a new high. If it's going to 111, then this is going to go 85, right?
Right.
Well, 85 might be a stretch, but you never know the way things are going.
Yeah.
But the next level will be 97. If we take this out
Mm-hmm.
before next week. And what a chart. Well, they say trend is your friend. Look at that. As long as you catch all those counter trends, it's a good deal.
And look how well your squares did too. Just perfect.
Yeah. Held them here. Yep. So yeah, if we take that out, boy, that opens up all of that. And technically the entire square. So that leaves a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And the last thing would be the
Weekly.
Aussie, Euro.
Right.
We should start covering the Aussie actually. maybe all the pairs.
Right.
Well, weekly, the same story. We came up to resistance last week before. We were looking at the half square to be sort of a balance point. Couldn't do it. And well, this was the key, right? Hitting that resistance on the daily basis. It was very clear.
Right.
And now we're back right down to and I can say one thing, this 1/3 of the square is probably not going to hold it. So it looks weak in my view.
Yep.
And that's all I got.
Excellent.
And thanks.
Good review.
Yeah. And if you guys have any, we're getting a lot of views. So if you guys have any questions or any comments or levels, clarifications, just put it in the comments and we always reply. especially since there's hardly any. So
That's easy.
yeah, and if you guys like the work, please feel free to share and hit the likes and do the reminder bell and all of that. All right, let me put it over to you. Cover all the commodities.
You got it.
Well, Ben, it really looked like it was going to go for the full square,
Yeah, it sure did, didn't it?
and we still might, but yeah.
The key thing for me this past week is what happened is we lost this half square
Mhm.
on Friday. So the next question is, do we stay below it? Do we get stuck? That's called 11,000 or 13,400. Do we get stuck below there, or can we get back on top? That's the key for the coming week. One of the things I will point out, other than the obvious that we hit some sort of peak here,
Mhm.
is this high to low move going down into the June lows was 56 days. And I said, all right, what if we do a low to high to match it? 56 days, September 2nd, which fits with a lot of the timing that you covered in your ES segment, by the way.
Mhm.
So do we pull back here? Do we do a sharp pullback, or do we just mess around and go sideways and then push up, get to this full square on that timing? That would be really sweet if that played out.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the things I'm watching. So again, the levels are all in the spreadsheet, but this for the NQs, this 13,383 level is the key for the coming week. Above it, it's bullish. Below it, it's bearish, and we could come back easily and check this full square, which is around 12,800.
Mhm.
And that would be logical in that was the area where all these highs were when we were heading into the lows.
Right.
So,
All right.
Anything else you're seeing here on NQs?
No, we're good. It's a simple it's a simple thing to watch
Yeah,
because we already made the corner, right? So
Yep, made the corner, and just watch that level, and that'll tell you where the balance, the favorable balance is. So let's go into the commodities. We'll start with some of the grains. So here's corn. Corn's one of the best looking grains out there. And the key thing why this chart interests me, in that unlike a lot of the commodities, which were, trying to find the corners and waiting for the turn, the pattern we're seeing out of this low here is you got a high and a higher low and a higher high and now a higher low with the reversal on Thursday. The other thing, so we got, a bullish series of higher highs and higher lows. That's number one. Number two, we're back above this full square.
Mhm.
And this is call it 615 level. As long as we're above that, it's bullish, and we should go up and take out that, the previous swing high and go up and test this half square. So this is, we were looking at it as it was coming into the low. This is the pattern you want to see coming out of it, to say, okay, the base is building. We had a snapback, a higher low, and then a higher high, and now another higher low. That's a bullish pattern.
Mhm.
So corn looks good to me for this swing low to hold. We'll see how it plays out. We got a nice trend line. We got a series of higher highs and higher lows. What else are you seeing here in the corn chart?
Well, from the high, I use the squares, a little bit differently, meaning it's not a static square.
Mm-hmm.
And if I put the square 90 on the high, right around 645 is 90 down, 646, right about there.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can clear that, then I think we got it. We could have it a new leg started. If we can't clear that, then I think it's in for more consolidation. So I'm looking at that level. So
and that's not far off of my half square here. So we're in the same neighborhood, within an eighth. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
within the eighth.
Yep.
So we'll see how it plays out. This is constructive. I agree. There's some overhead here we got to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a look at another one in that group, and that's soybeans. Similar type of pattern as corn, huh?
Yeah, very similar.
made the low ABC right into half square. First thrust up, higher low on the full square, push up higher high. Now we've got another higher low, and we're above this half square. And let's call it 1486.
Mm.
Even though it's a half square, it's also daily support. I'm sorry, monthly support is 1486.
Wow. Okay.
So it's pretty important.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, no, that is daily support's 1486. Monthly resistance is up here at 1566.
Okay.
So in this area of the full square here.
Mhm.
But I like the way this one's acting. Again, you see these higher highs and higher lows coming off what you isolate as a corner. It's a good sign. The question is, are we going to go straight up from here, or are we going to have to pull back and test here again? We'll see how price plays out. Use the half square at 1486 as your level of bull or bear in the short term. What are you seeing here in beans?
First of all, I just noticed if you take the July low and if you go from July low to the November low, that's 180. That's 180 bars. So it's possible that we did a decent move there, and the high to low was about 60, I think. So was it 60? No, it was 30 days. So it's possible there's signs that low was good, and I think you called it out, came in your half square. So I think as long as we can hold above, I don't know, 1425. Where do you have that?
1425?
Yeah.
About right about here.
Yeah. So as long as we can hold above that on any kind of consolidation, I think it's on good footing.
Yeah, I mean, the key thing to me is where we tried to isolate the corner, we now have constructive pattern just like corn.
Right.
I'm not going to show wheat because wheat is still trying to hammer out its bottom, right? It's continuing to make lower lows and lower highs. And in this show, we want to be a little more tactical and find these things that, are giving us signs that the turn is there. And corn and soybeans are certainly acting that way.
Well, wheat had a hell of a run up, so it's kind of recovering.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's right.
Got a little bit of a hangover, so.
Right. Let's go check out a few of the metals. You talked about gold. Silver, I want to show, not because I think, hey, this thing is, odds favor, we're going to, rock it out of here. This is doing what a lot of commodities that are trying to make a corner are. They made a low, we called out the low, we had a nice thrust up. Now they're pulling back. And the question is, do we make a higher low and hook back up, reverse back up on the daily, or and here especially because it's on this full square support, or do we have to push down, clean out these lows before we actually set a good bottom? With silver, I think the most likely outcome is going to be we clean out these lows and set a good bottom. But I wanted to show the chart because here's your first thrust up. Now we've got the pullback right into important support. So this is sort of a real-time test and educational material for you to see how we use the squares and where we're at a decision point, and now we just have to let price tell us what's going to happen. The negatives on this, if you look at the last 3 bars, every day we close right near the low. That shows people are liquidating, people are getting out. Probably somewhat of a reaction to the dollar strength, which we saw at the end of the week. But I wanted to show this chart to show, in sort of real time, how we watch it and see, okay, we're coming into support. Are we going to get that higher low and hook, or are we just going to come straight through and set a lower low? Anything else to add on silver?
Well, just that I'm using a square 72 on this, and the highs that came in on your half square is 72 degrees down from the high in August of 2020. So that's a key level, and we just bounced off of it. It was sold off, and looks like, at least in my charts, the support is around 16. It would be support to finish off this cycle. Where's that?
right about here. There's
four.
about 16 right about there.
Give or take a little, you know.
Mhm.
So if we break that trend line, I think we got a little ways to go.
Yeah, if we lose the trend line and we lose this full square, you got to look out. They're going to do a clean out move.
Yep.
So that's silver. Let's look at one that has actually set a nice bottom and is making progress. That's
Mhm.
copper.
Yep.
So copper, if you go back and look at the past shows, we were calling out, the potential for the corner as we came into this bottom. It was on a half square. It squared out. Everything looked good. And now we're seeing the price action that you want to see, which is a
Then
push
it took
up.
out the square.
Yep. Took out the full square, which was really important.
Mhm.
Pushed up, stayed on top of the square with the pullback. Now we pushed up through the half square, came back down through it. But look how we're reversing right back up above it. After this, it spent a day or two down there and then boom, pushed right back up.
Mhm.
The other thing you're watching in commodities, closing on the high on a Friday is very bullish.
Mhm.
But the key level is going to be this, call it 362. If we get above that and can stay on top of that, we open up the full square, which is around 387. If we get stuck below, then we're going to have to come down and see, okay, where's this next low going to be? Where are we going to, much like corn and soybeans, are we going to pull back, make a higher low, and then be able to use it as a launch pad to go higher again? So you can see the nice pattern here. Now it's just a matter of, is this first thrust done or is there more to go? And then where does the next correction come in on copper?
Mhm.
It's interesting with the strength in copper, with all the talk of recession and economy slowing down and housing market crashing and China's economy crashing, and copper is supposed to be like the PhD in economics, but look what it's doing. It's saying something totally different.
Right.
So what are you seeing here?
Well, I think that half square line you have is a line that I have also. It's around what is it, about
363.
Yeah, right about
362.
there. 65, 66.
Mhm.
And that is 90 degrees down from the high on my charts. And if we can clear that and settle above that, I think it's ready to actually, I'm glad we looked at this because we should be ready next week for this.
We got to be ready. Yep.
We can get above that and clear out those highs prior, a week before, right? This thing could go.
Yep.
On the same, other side of the coin, if we can't get above the 90 and we fail, then I think clearly we have lower prices to go. We got to, do that washout like everybody else.
Yeah, which you can see in a lot of these charts. There's this similar pattern, right? It's either going to make a big move up or we're going to do a washout. So, and right now I think it's a coin flip in a lot of them. We'll see.
Well, it's a coin flip is you get higher probability if we can clear the 90 or your half square. That's a key level from a lot of angles. So I think that would help a lot.
And that's the good news, is when you use these squares and you use the geometry, these levels tell you, which side of the coin is it weighted towards, right? Which one has a better chance of happening?
Right.
And we know, in each of these markets, and again, on the spreadsheet, they're all listed there. So you have the different levels and above or below what the odds are in favor of based upon the price being above or below.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's jump to the next one, which is the Widowmaker natural gas. So this to me is really interesting from the standpoint of, when we saw this a few weeks ago and we made a lower high, I said, oh, you got to be careful here and you got to watch out, because this thing could come down and take out these lows. Well, look where we found support, right where we should, on the half square. And in this past week, we pushed up and now we're sitting on top of this full square. And it's really, really bullish if it can hold this full square. The key thing, the reason why we're sort of finding resistance here at these highs, that's monthly and weekly square resistance.
Yeah.
Both of them are in this area. We clear that, I think you're looking at $11 for gas.
Yeah.
Because on the bigger time frames, the monthly and the weekly, it opens up another whole square higher on those.
Right.
So this top level is key. Clear this, call it 970. Bigger time frames are a go. Hold this here on the daily, which is, call it 879, 878. It means it's got the gas behind it to really challenge those highs and potentially make it. So there's two ways to play it, right? You play it on a pullback or you play it on the breakout. But this, to me, this looks really
Or you just throw your money at it.
which with gas, holy moly, it's volatile. This thing is super volatile, but you can see it respects the geometry, right? It respects the squares. Look at this.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the highs last year in October. Look where the lows came in. And then look at the bouncing here, you know, between the high and low and the half squares, how they hold. So it does respect the geometry, and it gives you a way of framing the price action and really setting up a favorable risk reward ratio, you know, should it hold certain levels. But this thing, for whatever reason, you know how crude doesn't look great and it's sloppy and it's trying to carve out a bottom. This thing looks like it's just about ready to rip. But we'll see. What do you see here when you're looking at crude? I mean, when you're looking at nat gas.
Well, nat gas, this I don't know what your level on the full square is there.
Here?
Yeah.
That's 878.
878. Okay. So I have 9 here. Okay, like 905.
Right about here.
Right about there being a key level. And if we can basically hold above that, at least basis on closing above that, it really opens up into about 11.
Which is right up here.
Okay, so there you go. And that's 300 degrees off the low in 2020. When you basically started talking about how bullish this is going to be.
Right. I remember I was talking about $10 gas then, and it seemed crazy, but here we are.
And if we clear that, I mean, the full cycle, if you go 360, I mean, that would be a.
And gas does go 360, by the way. It's not unusual.
And that would be around, you know, 1275 to 13. That would be 360 up from the 2020 low. And that could very well be. So, but 300 is the next, I mean, 300 degrees up, basis on a square of 60 is the next level. And 240 degrees up is that $9 level. So, yeah. But it's I don't think it's time to short it yet. Let's just put it that way.
No. Nope. It looks like I said, it looks like it's setting up for a rip. We'll see. We know the levels.
I mean, a simple ABCD would get you way out there, coming off the, you know, that low in June.
So we'll see. We know the levels, and we know where the action points are. So it's just a matter of seeing what price does. Let's jump on a couple of I want to show a couple of the softs with interesting patterns. Sugar's one we've been talking about, this frustrating sort of sideways correction we've been in for a year now. What we have here that I want to see is, can we change the pattern from early April, where we've had lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows. We just put in another lower high, but there was a big reversal on Friday off the low. This to me is the go point, right? If we can take out this high, not only do we take out that high and now we have a higher high and a higher low, but we'll also take out this full square at 1850. So while it's not there yet, and it's nothing, you know, you can say, okay, Sunday when the futures open, I'm going to dive in and get on this thing long. We do have some really defined points where we can see a change by taking out the high here, which is the high of that bar was 1870. So if we can print above 1870, we've got our first higher high and higher low since this correction started in April. So that's what I'm watching this week on sugar. That to me would signal higher probability that the trend has changed and we could see a breakout of this whole consolidation range. Anything else you're seeing here on sugar?
Well, I think if the lower half square holds, there's a tradable move here.
Right.
And the trade takes out that previous high.
That's right.
Yeah.
Same principle, right? You get a higher low and then a higher high.
Mm-hmm. And that'll set up an ABCD like it's been doing so.
Yep. So that's sugar. Let's take a look at cotton. Cotton we've been on for the last month or so. And I just want to show you the pattern there and how the squares work even in something that's really moving. So cotton, we talked about when the low came in this area that there was a really good risk reward. We had this pullback right on top of the full square, which is textbook. And then the move coming out of there with a gap, a couple gaps. But look where we're stalling. Stalling right here on a full square. So we've had a move of a full square from this low right into the square. On Friday, we pulled back right into the full square. I'm watching to see now, is this sort of move over? Meaning we get stuck under here and then we're going to get a pullback, which again could be bullish, right? If we come back here and hold the half square, or we come back here, and test the previous high and make another higher low, that would be bullish. Or do we get on top of here, on top of this full square, sit down and then get ready to go challenge this half square and the downtrend line from the top? Either way, unless we come down and take out this full square here, things are looking really bullish with cotton. Like this was a good low. We've had that strong move up on news of the drought in Texas, and now we're just sort of consolidating and seeing what kind of consolidation or correction of this move are we going to get before the next move higher. I know you've been on cotton too, Barrie. What are your thoughts here looking at this chart?
Well, this 120 is the key level I'm watching. It's really important. So, and it's major resistance from a couple of different ways. And until we get above that, now this leg is fine, right? We gapped and notice we couldn't close above that square, right?
Nope.
So
the
key thing now is, and because there's a lot of resistance above, I think it's probably going to consolidate a bit, and we just have to see the quality of the consolidation. But if we can clear 120, hey, new highs are not too far away.
Yeah, it'll be off to the races.
But that's the level I'm watching.
I agree with you. This is showing that we're probably gonna, and if we just go sideways, that's a great move, right? That's super bullish. So we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah.
And then the last one today we're going to look at is coffee. Coffee is a lot like sugar and a lot like the other commodities that we've seen, where we're seeing an initial push up and then a pullback and a consolidation, and what's going to come next is the key. So we got this low in here that we called out, when it was a false break and an immediate move higher. And now look here, this is a really, really sloppy, complex, sort of choppy potential second wave we're seeing here. But the key thing is on Friday, we came down. Thursday, we came down, tested, stopped on the full square. Friday, they pushed down through it, but look where the close ended up, above it. So much like sugar, if we can take out these highs, we've got another higher low, series of higher lows, series of higher highs. We will have held this really, really critical support in the 212 area. And it's critical because it's weekly support and monthly support's around 210, 211. So it's all right in here, massive support. So if we can sit on top of that and roll up, we could again break out and end this consolidation that's been in place since January, February of this year. So there's nothing to do yet, but it's on the radar, watching as as price develops here and price action prints some more. We can really get a good estimate of our risk reward for taking a potential long trade here once we start taking out these levels up here. What are you seeing in your coffee cup these days?
You know, I switched to drinking chocolate instead of coffee.
So we have to watch cocoa a little more closely.
Watching cocoa like a hawk. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think you covered it well. I think I would go with that. Those are good levels, and I think it's something to watch. It's not quite on. I like your levels you have there, so let's go with that.
Yeah, we have to watch levels and see how price interacts with them, and that's the story from the commodity world, is that, you know, nothing's screaming, but everything has potential. You know, the potential bottoms are in, moves off the lows have come, or it's hammering out a bottom, and we just really need to watch these markets closely as we're in this major cycle window, because you can see in the charts the sort of beginnings of shifting that's going on, moving from either a sharp correction like happened in copper or cotton, or these consolidations, these long sideways like we've seen in sugar, in coffee, and in markets like that. So I know we've been saying it all month. It's really critical to watch, but we are in the window. We've been in the window for a couple of weeks now, and markets are at inflection points. So this week is going to be high intensity, watching a lot of different markets, looking for those clues as to when certain levels get taken out, that the odds have shifted in favor of one thing happening over another. How about you, Barry? What are you focusing on this week?
Wow, there's a lot to watch this week. Mostly I'm looking for where the S&P is going to correct to, looking for those pullbacks. And that would be the main focus. And the commodities, the ones you covered, we're going to see if we can break out, mainly the S&P this week.
Fantastic. Well, great coverage today, and good show. And we'll talk to everybody soon. We'll be on Twitter with updates, because things are moving and things are happening this week.
Yeah. Thanks, Ben.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.